Friends, Jordan Montgomery here, and we're glad that you've tuned into another episode of the Growth Over Goals podcast. Before we jump into today's conversation, we want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Thompson & Co. Salon and Parlor. Thompson & Co. Salon and Parlor is a family-owned, stylist-owned community salon that fits the needs for all types of families. Located in downtown Iowa City and now a second location in Coralville, North Liberty area, TCO specializes in all things hair. In fact, that's where I've been getting my hair done for the last 7 years. TCO specializes in hair cutting, razor cutting, the most modern color techniques, and high-end hair extensions. As one of Iowa's only intercoiffure salons and Salon Today's top 200 salons in the U.S., TCO looks forward to being the salon of choice for you and those you love. Be sure to call or book on their website today at thompsonandcosalon.com. Thank you, TCO, for all you do for us and our community. Welcome back to the Growth Over Goals podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Montgomery. Today, we've got an amazing guest. He's on the Mount Rushmore of sports personalities. Formerly hosted Rome is Burning on ESPN. He now hosts the top-rated show, The Jim Rome Show, syndicated by CBS Sports Radio. He was inducted into the Radio Hall of Fame in 2019. Recently launched the Reinvention Project. I had the fortunate opportunity to be a guest on that show where Jim and I got connected. Some of you are figuring this out. Our guest today is none other than the legendary sports broadcaster, now dear friend, Jim Rome. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
My man, half of that is true. I am your dear friend. Half of that is true. Jordan, what's going on, dude? It is so good to sit with you, chop it up with you. You have already done so much to help me in this space, and it is an absolute pleasure to be on this, man. Thanks so much.
Listen, man, this is a blessing. It's been a long time coming. I just love connecting with you, man. Love your energy. Our mutual friend John Gordon always says that leadership is a transfer of energy. It's about depositing belief. And every time I talk to you, you transfer energy, you deposit belief. That's part of who you are. Here's where I want us to start in today's conversation. You have this incredible drive. Many people know who you are. Many listeners are going, oh yeah, the Jim Rome Show, and they're getting familiar with the Reinvention Project. Maybe they used to listen to Rome is Burning. So they know you from that world. But what a lot of people don't understand is the incredible drive that is inside of you and this crazy, and I mean crazy, so like buckle up. You have a crazy come up story and a grind and a drive that's unparalleled that help you get to where you're at today. So can you just take us back to the early days of Rome coming up in the sports radio world?
Yeah, I can do that. I don't know that my drive is unparalleled, but I did always want it. So the way I came up was I grew up in Los Angeles, and like a lot of people, like you, like a lot of people I was addicted to sports, man. Absolutely love sports. Everything about it. I couldn't get enough. And it was from a very early age. Like my father was from Boston. He taught me how to read the sports page literally in first grade. Like I was fighting the old man for the sports page in first grade, and I was obsessed. So where was that going to lead me? I was going to be a pro athlete, of course. Until I realized, looking myself up and down one day, I'm not going to be a pro athlete, of course. But I thought to myself, how can I stay in that business? How can I get in the business of sports? Because this is my passion. And I thought about this, Jordan, long and hard. And I realized, well, if I can't play the game, maybe I could talk about the game. But how am I going to talk about the game when there really is nothing significant about me at all? The only advantage I had over anybody on the come up was I was very self-aware in that I was ordinary. I had no advantage over anybody at all, but I did figure one thing out. And keep in mind, because I'm a little bit older than maybe some people watching right now, or a lot older, there was no social media, there was no internet, there were just books. And I read and I thought, and I had a chip on my shoulder. That didn't hurt. But what I did figure out was this, and I never read this before, but I figured out, all right, 3 things. Who am I? Who do I want to be? And how am I going to get there? In other words, I figured out at an early age, I need to reverse engineer my life. How am I going to do that? I know who I was, somebody not that impressive. I knew who I wanted to be, a network broadcaster. And then I had to figure out, how am I going to get there? And from a very early age, I knew what I wanted, and I just went to work. I went to work on myself. I went to work on self-programming, and I went to work on building up the blocks to put myself in position to be that guy. So I had a pretty good start that way.
What I admire about you, man, is you're still in that growth mode. Like you've arrived in this incredible place. It's truly one of the top sports personalities in our country. By the way, you were trending on Twitter recently. So new contract, super fun, trending on Twitter for all the right reasons. But here you are at this really special place in life, and you're still trying to grow and reinvent yourself. You just came out with the Reinvention Project podcast. You and I had a great conversation on that podcast. I was so honored to be your guest. Talk to us about the work you're doing now in reinventing yourself and the reason that you started the new show that, by the way, everybody should tap into, Reinvention Project with Jim Rohn.
Oh, so thank you very much for saying so. It's really something. Like, I went into the Radio Hall of Fame in 2019, and it was a culmination of, this is my life's work. You know, the people who mattered most to me were there. My wife, my kids, my mother, my team. It was in New York City. I went in with Ryan Seacrest, a couple of disc jockeys from LA I knew, Kevin and Bean. I mean, it was the John Tesh went in that night. It was an amazing night. But no sooner than I walked off that stage, people were saying, "What now? What now?" In other words, like, "You're done, right, old man? You're done. You're going to find a beach. You're going to find a golf course." And I'm like, well, no. What's next? What's next? I'm going to get my ass on the airplane and go back to work because I have a show on Monday. And it hit me that I'm not, why are people trying to force me into some off ramp? I'm not done. But then I realized, okay, here's the thing. Doing what you've done got you to where you are, but it's not going to get you to where you want to be. So then I just got obsessed with this mission of reinvention. You can't run me off. And by the way, if I'm going to look in the mirror and be real honest with myself, am I growing? Am I evolving? Is my brand keeping pace? It's more competitive now than ever before. And the answer was no, it's not. Like, I didn't get complacent. I didn't get lazy. I didn't mail it in, but I was doing the same things, and I could see the product and the brand was starting to bleed just a little bit. And then personally, I'm like, how are you growing? How are you evolving? You're not. You're just working. You care, but you're not innovating. You're not getting better. So I thought about, I got to reinvent myself. I got to reinvent myself personally. I have to reinvent myself mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I need to invent my brand. I need to reinvent my business. So it became just a mission, not a passing interest, not something you do when you feel like it, not on days when you feel good, but it became a mission of reinvention. And then you'll understand this, Jordan. Everything flows from that. Once you have a mission and you are committed, every thought, every choice, every decision, everything you eat, it's not, ideally, everything you drink, all flows from the mission. You need to be in congruence with the mission. And on days when I act in accordance with my mission and I could build these little victories and stack them, it felt great. But then when I got off path, I didn't feel so good. So my feeling was, sorry about the long answer, but I had something to prove to myself in my late 50s. I had something to prove to the people who believed in me. I wanted to prove them right. And for the haters that are still out there, I wanted to prove them wrong and jam it up their backside. You know, in other words, when I get up in the morning and my feet hit the ground, man, it feels good to operate from a place of mission. I am on a mission to reinvent and prove that I am still relevant, I am still worthy, and I want to create. And last of all, I wanted the actual mission is to prove that the next 25 years of my life should be my most creative, my best. I do not want to be known as the guy who did Romans Burning. I do not want to know or think that my best is behind me, man. I'm in my 50s.
So good.
I got so much good stuff ahead of me, and so does everybody else, right? Don't waste a second, and it's never too late to start or start over.
The leadership quote to me that embodies Jim Rohn is from John Wooden. It's what you learn after you know it all that counts.
Right.
That's you, brother. Like, here you are, man. You're grinding, you're reinventing yourself, you're learning, you're growing. I have so much respect for you and that part of who you are. One of the things that's allowed you to be so relevant for so long is you're willing to say the things that not everyone is willing to say. You're willing to challenge. You're willing to ask tough questions. It's been sort of like a hallmark of your career. And you just mentioned haters. And I just want to speak to this for a minute, because if we're going to do anything in this world that's significant, if we're going to have any kind of impact, we're for sure going to have some haters. We're going to have some people that we have to deal with that don't like us, that don't like what we have to say, that don't like what we do. Like, how are you at this stage of your life choosing to deal with haters? And what would you say to maybe even the younger listener that's on the come up, that's dealing with some of that adversity, rejection, or hate currently?
It's such a good question, because I figured this out early on in my life. Hey, listen, it's not even like if you have a strong point of view, It's not even if you're successful, and believe me, it is those things. You can be the most vanilla personality ever. People will hate. People will hate. I don't care who you are, people will hate. You better understand that. Like I got started in this game very early on, and those who knew me and were close to me and knew what I was really about, because by the way, separate the person from the show. Now, the show is real. I say what I mean what I say, and this is who I really am. And this is a whole different topic. This is different from a lot of what you see in content right now, where I think that what you see is not what is actually real. I've always said this about athletes. We don't know any of these people. We don't know any of these people. Some of the people who you think are the best people ever, frankly, sorry, are some of the worst people ever. And some of the people who you think are the worst people ever are actually some of the best people ever. We don't know these people. But this much I know. X will always hate. You know why? Unfortunately, some people are unhappy. Unfortunately, some people are miserable. Unfortunately, it's easier to hate than it is to actually do the work. So on the come up, when I'm trying to realize, all right, what is your separation? What is your separation? You're not smarter. You're not more talented. You don't have a better look. You don't have a better sound. Where are you going to get separation? Well, I worked on the way up. Half my time was spent working on my craft and my brand and my show, but half of it was working on me, working on my mind, working on a thick skin, because I knew there would be rejection and I knew there'd be people coming for me that would not be happy for me. If you are somebody who lets other people get in your head easily or get under your skin or determine how you feel about you, I don't care what business you're in, you're not going to make it very far. People will always hate. It's unfortunate. If they spend as much time working on themselves and being positive and lifting others up and serving other people as they did tearing them down, I guarantee they'd be further on in life and they'd be happier and the world would be a better place. So I'm going to say to you, I'm going to say to me, I'm going to say to my own kids, there will always be haters, unfortunately. Now, there will be those who are pulling for you and lifting you up. There's a lot of great people in the world.
That's right.
But unfortunately, there's some that just are not happy. And you imagine all the time spent logging on to tell somebody they suck, how horrible their show is, how horrible their take is. Like, I can't even imagine the toxicity, what that does, man. Yeah. What does that do? Does that make you feel better about you? I think it does for some people. But be ready. There's going to be hate out there. And be ready and have a plan for dealing with it, because you will encounter it.
That's right. And I think, to your point, we got to stay close to those who are willing to support, encourage. They want to be uplifting. They want to be positive. Man, you've been that for me. Like, every time we talk, like, I feel better about myself. I feel better about the work. And so I appreciate you being that person, one of those people in my life, man. You bring that to the world in a world that sometimes can be hateful. Like, you're still finding the light. One of the things that also separates you in your career, because I know this about you, Jim, from our conversations. I think a lot of people look at you and what you do, and they're like, man, Jim's got it great. Like, he does these interviews, and he must just kind of pop into the studio for a couple hours, knock out an interview, and then he's back out the door. The way that you prepare shows how much you care. And you care a lot. And for a long time, you've been getting into the studio early. You've been staying late. Talk to us about how much you prepare for one single interview. By the way, you're one of the best question askers on the planet, literally on the planet, one of the best interviewers on the planet. I've never had an interview like I had with you where you knew everything about me. Like, you knew everything. You knew about my background. You knew about my business. You knew about my family. Like, you were so prepared. And I think that set you apart. Could you talk to us about the way that you prepare and how preparation has been a game changer for you?
Preparation breeds confidence. Preparation breeds confidence. Preparation is so important to me on so many different levels. Number one, preparation breeds confidence. If you're going to show up on a stage, you're going to show up in the arena, you better be prepared. Number two, you have to have respect for the person you're interviewing. You are a very prominent person. You are a very busy person. I'm not wasting your time, Jordan. I'm going to be ready to talk to you when you come on, because I'm grateful that you're making time. I'm grateful that you find value in the conversation, and I'm going to have that respect for you. Number two, I'm curious. I want to know about you. I want to know who I'm talking to. I want to know what I can get from that. Number three, respect the audience. Respect the audience. There has never been a greater battle for the hearts and minds of the public than right now. Back in the day, you mentioned Rome is burning. Back in the day when I did this, there were only a few of us doing it. Right now, if you've got one of these, you have a show. Everybody's doing it. I understand that. I'm not resting on my laurels. I know that I'm in a battle to get their attention. Do the work. Make sure that you're prepared because the audience is not dumb. If you're not prepared and you're just winging it, they'll sniff that out and they will find somebody else who is compelling, who they will get some information and insight from. I don't want to lose my audience. There's an unspoken contract between me and them. I will show up every single day, give you everything I have, and try to create the best show I have. Now, not every show is going to be great, but I have a process, and I will attack every single day like it's the last show. Preparation to me that's how I got separation. That's how I got separation. Again, I keep going back to this. I really never felt that I was any better than anybody else. So I got to find some kind of advantage in the margins, And when I was coming up, if I could just share this with you, when I went to school at UC Santa Barbara and I got myself into the system, I became a comm studies major. I went to the campus radio station. I went and got an internship. Now I'm amongst the group and I'm looking around. I'm like, that guy is definitely better than me. He just is. He's got a greater recall. He's sharper. He's got a better voice. I can never do that play-by-play. She definitely is smarter than I am. Like I'm looking around this room. I'm like, why me? Why me? Not what's your why, but why me? Why me? Why me? How am I different? And I started to realize, wait a minute, there is one thing that's different. I'm almost psychotic and neurotic in my need to do things that others won't do. And not because I have to, but because I want to. I thought nothing. This is still in preparation now. I haven't lost track of that. I thought nothing of getting up at 4:15 a.m., Jordan, when everybody else was like mortified of the morning class. I'm not going to class at 8 a.m. I thought nothing of working for free in an internship at 4:15 a.m. downtown in Santa Barbara so I could make that 8 a.m. class. Not only did I think nothing of it, I loved it. I loved it because I knew I was getting ahead. I knew I was winning. I knew I was prepared. There was an edge in the preparation. And I never left that. I'm like, don't ever, ever forget why you're still in this game, man. It's your preparation. It's my preparation. I embrace the grind. I love the grind.
There's no question, man, that's been a separator for you. You know, this adage that if you want to have influence others don't have, you got to do things others don't do. And you've done that, man, for so long. Long obedience in the same direction. That's been a separator for you. I've heard you talk repeatedly about being proud that you did it your way. You know, preparation, that's part of the Jim Rome way. Challenging people, I think that's part of the Jim Rome way. But what else would you say about being authentic to yourself, doing it your way, knowing who you are, leaning into being different and owning that? What would you have to say to people who are communicating, that are working through that?
You know, I think you really want to be authentic. I think you really want to be authentic. Like on the way up, I wasn't doing these things. Like I had this thing about he's a shock jock, or he'll say things that other people won't say. I mean, I guess, sort of. But you know what? I meant all that stuff. I was not saying things just to elicit a reaction. I was not saying things just to provoke people. I was not saying things just to say things. And I certainly never said things that I didn't believe. I was being authentic. I just wanted it to be aggressive. I understood early on, it better be smart. It better be entertaining. It better be provocative. And you better be able to back up what you're saying. Don't just say things to say things. And I wanted to be true to myself and I want to be real to myself. Now, here's what's interesting. Now I'm in a part in my life where I'm kind of like, it went from people wanting to kick my ass who hated me to being like, I'm the respected OG. You know, I'm like, I'm the guy who's been around. And now you've got a bunch of hot takers and people that are saying things. And I'm not saying that format doesn't work, but now I'm trying to figure out, all right, so where do I fit in? I am not going to be like a demagogue. And I'm not saying that anybody is that per se, but I need to be aggressive and I need to be provocative, but I'm not going to be this hot take expert who sits around thinking, I know if I do this, it will elicit this reaction and I will get clicks and I will get eyeballs and I will, quote, go viral. Listen, that works. That works for certain people. But when I hit the pillow at night with my head, I want to know that what I did was true and authentic to me and with integrity, and I still won. I need to win without compromising my principles and integrity. I'm just talking about what works for me. What works for me.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I feel like I did it my way. I didn't backstab people on the way up. I didn't step on toes on the way up. I worked my butt off, and I found others that could fit into that same kind of culture, that wants to do the same. And then I helped them move on to do their own things. But I never did things. I'm a good person. People may be like, dude, it's a bad guy right there. I'm not. You may think that, and I'm not going to talk you off that, but I know right here, I'm a good dude who does things the right way. And I did not get to wherever I am by doing bad things to people. I just didn't. I feel good about that.
You should feel good about that. And you're effective when you're authentic. And you've been authentic.
People want that. People want that. They want the real. They want authentic. Yep. They want real. Yep. They want real. They want real. They want fearless. They want real. And listen, you know how this is. Like, even after every athlete I've ever talked to, and you've spent a lot of time around athletes, we don't want bad news. Believe me, I've been fired. I've had shows that have been canceled. It never feels good. As talent, you don't want to hear that. As somebody who creates content or runs a business, you don't want to find out that you failed at something. But you know what you do want? You want someone to look you in the eye, shoot you straight, and be authentic. And if you have to have a hard conversation, so be it. But be real and be authentic. People do demand that, and they deserve that.
Such a great message, brother. Thank you for keeping it real for so many years. Again, part of the reason that you're relevant and people want to listen to you. I want to talk about the work, because some people are interested in, the work. They want to know about the show. They want inside your mind. I want to go a little bit behind the scenes on the work. You get the Jim Rome Show, millions of listens. You got people flocking to the conversations. I want to know, though, from the man himself, who's had all these interviews, conducted all this conversation, what have been some of your most favorite conversations, most favorite moments, or most favorite interviews? You could pick 2 or 3. What you can't say, because we're going to talk about this in just a second, is the smack off, because I think you might say that. I want to talk about the smack off in just a second. Many of y'all know about the smack off. If you don't know about the smack off, go check it out. But before we go to smack off, take us back to some of your most favorite moments in this career that you've had.
It's so hard to say, because I've interviewed thousands and thousands and thousands of people. I would say this. How about this? So when I got my first big break on 690 AM in San Diego, before we syndicated the program, it was a 50,000 watt blowtorch. And my father, Jay, who introduced me to sports, was a Boston guy, huge Red Sox fan. Unfortunately, he became ill, and he had leukemia. And he was, man, don't even get me started on this. Like the fight that this guy fought, my father, was absolutely incredible. I've never seen anything like it. So he's diagnosed with leukemia at 50. Never says, why me? And not to digress and get too far off, but and I've told this story before, he gathers my sister and I and my mother and says to me, they own a small business. They're manufacturers in Southern California of high-tech garments and things like that. And he says, I have cancer. I have leukemia. We're not telling anybody. You keep it here. And he doesn't blink. He doesn't flinch. He just very matter-of-factly, I have leukemia. And I barely really even understand. Like, I'm in a state of shock. I said, what do you mean we're not telling anybody? He's like, we're not telling anybody. I'm like, nobody? Nobody. He didn't tell his mother. My mother didn't tell her mother. It didn't leave the house. Nobody. I'm like, well, hello, why? He said, a few reasons. One, I don't want people having pity for me. I don't want people looking at me or thinking about me differently. Frankly, I don't think it would be good for business if our suppliers and our customers knew that I had cancer. And by the way, I'm just going to handle it. I'm going to handle it. So this is a whole different thing that had incredible impact on my life that I can keep going on. But in terms of the interview, he loved Ted Williams. He loved Ted Williams. Teddy Ballgame was his guy. He grew up as a Red Sox fan. And I had a kid that was my producer on my show, a kid by the name of Joe Totino. And Joe was a big family guy. He understood this. My father's very ill, and he's starting to lose it because leukemia has gone into his brain. He needs brain surgery. And Joe and I, especially Joe, make it this mission to interview Ted Williams. Ted Williams was not the easiest guy to get along with. He famously did not like the media, especially in Boston. And I'm going to get an interview. Jim Rome's getting an interview with Ted Williams? How? Why? My producer, the Bulldog, we call him the Bulldog because he was a Bulldog, turned Ted Williams. And I did this interview on the radio. It was maybe 15 minutes, 19 minutes, way longer than it should have been. But I did it before my father passed, and he heard the interview. And I don't know in terms of cognition how sharp he was at that time, but sharp enough that he knew that his kid ran down Ted Williams. I mean, it was an amazing moment, an amazing win, and something that we had to share before he passed. So that was one of my first really, really big interviews, really big moments.
I got
So
goosebumps as you shared that story.
It was really something, and then when you do this as long as I've done this, the interesting thing is now every interview matters, everything matters, every show matters, every day matters, every hour matters, everything matters. But there are a few times a year where the stakes, even for me, 30 years in, are a little higher. It's only a few times a year, but I feel it like that interview. Hey man, I got butterflies. This is bringing a little something extra out of me. I really want this one. So those moments are few and far between because I've interviewed almost everybody in the business since I've done it, but I still have those moments, and those are the moments you look for.
I hope you're telling that story on a stage repeatedly because that's powerful and that's purpose.
That's good.
That's impact.
Good advice.
I appreciate you
I
going
hadn't thought about that.
I appreciate you going there. Powerful. Got goosebumps. That's one of the better stories that's been shared on this podcast.
I appreciate that.
I want to go hard right turn to talk about Smack Off because I think this is like the coolest thing. And dude, you have changed lives with the Smack Off. And I'm not going to spoil it. I want you to talk about it. Tell our listeners what it is. Many people know what the Smack Off is. You've been doing this for years. It's a big deal. It's part of your brand. You've changed lives doing it. Talk to us about Smack Off and what it's meant to you.
All right. So the Smack Off is something I do once a year on my syndicated radio program. And the way we came up with this idea was when I started to do the show, I started in Santa Barbara and I had a show that was 1 hour a night. Then I got the big job at San Diego. It took me a few years to bust out of a small market to get the big market job. And then the show I started on the weekends, but then the nightly show was 5 hours a night. So I'm doing a single host show for 5 hours. That's a lot of prep and callers. It's sports talk radio. You want callers. The problem is the callers didn't make it better. No offense, callers. And let's not confuse the audience with the callers. A very small percentage of an audience will ever call a radio program. We know the analytics. We've always known the analytics. I like to joke that none of my friends call radio shows. No offense, jungle callers. But what I did notice was there were so many callers that had nothing to say or wanted to mimic the way I was saying things because at that time my vernacular was so different. And they just didn't make it better. But once or twice a night, you get that one caller that broke through. And you'd be like, holy bleep, man, that guy was awesome. Or that guy was awesome. They made it so much better. And it dawned on me one day, if I could only pick the callers to the show, this show would be so much better. But obviously you can't do that. But we can once a year. I can once a year. So once a year, I have this competition called the Smack Off, where the very best callers to the program get to compete against one another to become the king or queen of smack. It is the Smack Off. It's like the NCAA tournament. It is invite only. If you've ever won the event, you have a lifetime exemption. Otherwise, you have to play your way in. And in any given year, there's maybe 30 people that qualify for this sort of thing. Some can go years without calling it, then just show up the day up. But what it is people would say, like, Rome, you've got some of the craziest, kookiest, most unique callers in the entire business. Well, these are the best of the best. And the guy who won the first one, JT the Brick, and went on to have a very successful sports talk radio career. Some of these other guys are just really successful in business. Believe me, they could be talk show hosts. They're that good. So that's what the Smack Off is. I've done it 29 years. Like, I'm as proud of that as anything I've ever done. And we're coming up on Smack Off 30. How have I done this event 29 years? I can't tell you how many people have said to me, Rome, I grew up listening to the Smack Off with my father. Now, I had Greg McElroy on from ESPN on my day or on my podcast this week. He's like, Rome, I grew up watching you on TV. So part of that makes me feel old and decrepit, and part of that gives me tremendous pride. But the Smack Off, man, the Smack Off is a beast and entity unto itself where the best of the best come together. There are viewing parties, there are listening parties. It trends on Twitter. That's one of those things that gets me up every single year. The stakes are high. You want to deliver. You want to deliver.
Bro, I've been watching.
And by the way, it's a caller show. I have nothing to do with it. I moderate it. I judge it with my staff, and I stay the heck out of the way. Do your thing. Do your thing. It's their day.
It's absolutely brilliant. And that's worked so well for so long. I've been tuning into the Smack Off since I was a kid. When I was right there with the Rome was burning on ESPN, listening to the Smack Off. So again, man, 30 years almost doing that, right? 29 years? This is 29?
I've done 29. Next one
Done
will be
29.
30.
Next one will be 30, 30th anniversary.
Yes.
If you
Yes.
don't know the Smack Off, many of you do, but if you don't know it, go check out the Smack Off. Some great content, great conversation. Hey, final thought.
Appreciate
here,
that.
man.
Thank
final
you.
thought. You're heading into this space. You're in this space. You just gave a commencement speech, University of Wisconsin. Your son was graduating. How special is that? You got to give the commencement speech
Oh,
at your
dude.
son's
I'm so glad you asked that.
graduation.
I'm so glad you asked that.
Talk to me about that, man.
It's amazing. You know who it's amazing for? My wife, Janet.
Yeah.
Imagine my wife, Janet, who already, can I just say, I married the best person I've ever met. Who can say that? I married the best person I ever met. My wife is universally beloved. And when I met her, she was way more successful than me in our business. And by the way, she tried to get me fired. She was the vice president of human resources of the broadcast company where I got my first big break on 690 AM. She heard me on the air and literally to a word, I mean, I could quote her. She said in a conference room with the other VPs, I don't know who that new guy is. I don't like him. He's mean-spirited. This is what he said about Fernando Valenzuela. I think we should fire him. Not a good thing when the vice president of human resources wants to fire you. So what did I do, Jordan? I married her. Anyway, Janet's amazing, and she's the most beloved person I've ever met. So with that in mind, incredible heart of gold. Imagine being Janet that day. Her husband is giving the commencement speech for the the Department of Mass Communications for her son who is graduating college. And she's seeing both of us in this room. That was
incredible.
Again, chills. To me, for me to be there that day that our son graduated and to be asked to deliver that commencement speech, and they told me, this is great. As a professional speaker, you would understand this. They said to me, go 15 minutes. And I'm working this thing. And I'm trying to pare it down. And stuff's hitting the cutting room floor. And I get out there and I come off the stage. And the guy, Doug McLeod, who's a brilliant guy who runs the department, said, hey, man, you killed it. I'm like, hey, Doug, how long was that? He's like, I think 37. I'm like, 37? Like, it took me weeks to get it down to 15. But I had so many things that were so important to me. It was a very, very special day that I will never, ever forget.
Super special moment. I heard the speech. You sent it to me. Go check out Jim Rome.
You sat through that thing?
Bro, I sat through that. Come on, man. You sent it to me. I'm going to watch that. I watched it. You're a brilliant communicator. You're doing more keynote speaking. Companies can hire you. Corporations can hire you. If you want Jim Rome at your next event, Jim Rome will come under certain conditions and if the timing is right. But Jim, anything that you want our audience to know about your speaking career, your openness, availability to doing that type of work on a more regular basis?
Yeah, no, I so appreciate you saying that, Jordan. Thank you so much. And you've been a great mentor for me, and you've been a great person for me to bounce things off of because you've done so well in that space. You have opened doors for me. You have introduced people to me. So I want to make sure that you understand how much gratitude I have towards you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Hey, listen, about the space, I do want to be in that space. This is why I do that podcast. Spoiler alert, we're not getting rich doing that podcast. We're not getting rich doing the podcast. But you know where I am getting rich? Man, I'm learning things. I'm meeting people like you. I have access to other people that ordinarily I might not have met. And I feel much better. If we really are the sum of the 5 people we spend the most time with, there's that. But when I get to meet people like you, my guy Ed Milet, my guy John Gordon, my guy David Nurse, I mean, the energy is so great. I don't always deal with great positive energy doing my show. I understand this, and it's my job to run the show. But when I move in these circles, these are about people that understand servitude. These are about people that want to make other people better. I want to learn. So yes, I feel like my story, maybe not as compelling as some stories, but I think there is some value in my story. And I want to share my story, and I want to be up on stage, and I want to talk to people. And I think there are people my age that are kind of like, now what? And by the way, the thing that I had the most pride in the Reinvention Project, when our son Logan was playing baseball, and he's played his senior year before going on to college, there were kids on that team listening to the Reinvention Project. So I'm not just that old head, hey, man, get off my lawn. I had to walk 10 miles in the snow. Never mind that I never saw snow until I was like 30. I grew up in California. But my point is some of these things are timeless, but I'm also trying to evolve, and the message evolves. So I think that what I have is an energy and an enthusiasm to continue to compete and grind and make it better. So yes, I would love to share that message with your company on a stage. And I think it applies to people my age and people a lot younger to me and somebody your age. So I appreciate you getting behind me. Hey, listen, what you're saying to me is, hey, brother, you have something to say. And I think that we can have a relationship and we can move in the same circles. That you believe in me means the world to me too. Understand that.
Well, brother, I believe that you are one of the most interesting people on the planet. I truly mean that. Your come up, your story, your background, the way that you've poured yourself into your work, the way that you
I believe you are one of the most delusional people
family
on the planet, but thank you very much.
I'm serious. It's just, your life's journey is crazy. It's fascinating. There's so many twists and turns. And you've earned it. You know, I think that's the cool thing. It's like, certainly you've got God's favor. You're really talented, but you've also earned it, man. You've worked for it. And the fact that you weren't some amazing athlete, so many people in your space today came from that world. You know, they were great athletes. They were a great coach. Like, you literally came up in this business because you were amazing at asking questions and being more interested and interesting and getting in rooms and writing people letters. And so, like, if there's somebody that young people need to learn from about what it looks like to come up and hustle and grind and make it and create your own opportunity, like, Jim Rome is the guy to learn from. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, man.
I mean, thank you so much. Sorry to interrupt. I want to just make two really quick points before you go. Number one, I think that's why I appeal. I literally am the common man. I literally am the average person. Really, literally, I was an average person in every single regard except want to and drive. And, you know, it helps when you're kind of a loser in high school and you have a chip on your shoulder. Whatever it is, I had it. Like, I remember my father, when I mentioned you, he looked at me one day, he's like, dude, I don't know where you got your drive from. You didn't get it from me. And never mind that he was a really hard worker and did really well. But there's that's why I think my message resonates. I am them. There's nothing significant about me. And then the second point, your point about there's a bunch of athletes right now, I think I also resonate. I realize this. I am now competing with athletes who have anecdotes, who have experience, who have their own platforms. I understand that. I'm competing with the Hot Take Nation, where people want to go and they want that combat and they want that. And by the way, we're all going to compete with AI. We're all going to compete with AI. I understand that this is a really competitive world, and I'm in an absolute dogfight to stay relevant and have people come to find me and listen to me. So those two things, I'm the average man, average person who's done okay. And although whatever I've done, I might be in the Hall of Fame, I'm going as hard now as I ever have, because it is as hard as it's ever been. You got to go hard. There are no shortcuts. There are no hacks. I'm sorry. I'm not that guy. Here's your hack. Do the work.
Yeah.
Do the work. That's my hack. Do the work.
Come on. Bro, you've been fighting the fight, running the race. Your friendship is a blessing to me. This conversation's a gift to me. I so much appreciate who you are, what you stand for, and all that you've done for me. So just know that, man, you're an encourager. You transfer energy. I'm glad you're in my life, and I'm so thankful that you were on today's show. Anything else that you want to leave our listeners with before we sign off today, Jim?
I think that we covered a lot of ground. I think that I made it pretty clear what I'm about. You know, you do the work. You do the work. I think it's really important not only to embrace the grind, but to love the grind. No victims. No victims. You know, I think you don't be a victim. I mean, nobody wants that. You don't want to be an energy vampire. I don't know, Jordan, I want you to know that the good thing about this space is, like, I came up in a world where people were backstabbing each other to get ahead. I come into this space, everybody wants to help. It's really interesting, and people have embraced me and they like me, and that feels wonderful. I want to say, on a personal note, and I mean this, you've done as much for me as anybody. And I've got guys like Ed Milet, John Gordon, David Nurse, and these are good dudes, man. And they've helped me a lot. But I know what you got going on. I know how many people you're connected to. You've done as much for me in introducing me to other people, promoting me, saying, brother, I'm here if you just want to rap. And I want to thank you for that. I mean that sincerely. Your relationship and our friendship means very, very much to me. So thank you.
Well, right back at you, brother. God bless you. We have a lot more work in front of us to do together. More conversations, more fun, more impact. We're just getting started. Thank you for being on the Growth Over Goals show. This was an honor.
Absolutely. An honor to be asked, an honor to do it. And I had an absolute blast, my guy. I know you and I will talk soon.
Keep rocking, brother. Be well. God bless you. This has been another episode of the Growth Over Goals podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Montgomery. Thank you for listening. Thanks for being here. If you found any value in this episode, I would love it if you would rate, review, subscribe to this podcast in an effort that we might move our mission of impact forward. I also want to say thank you to our producers, John Choate and James Roth of Storyline Multimedia, for all of the work that they do behind the scenes to make this podcast go. Be well, be great. Have a wonderful day.